Before a disaster turns your family's world upside down, it's up to you to be ready. Get a kit, make a plan, be informed. Learn how at www.ready.gov. Brought to you by the Federal Emergency Management Agency and the Ad Council.
Polls close in 55 minutes on the dot, 8 o'clock on the dot. All ballots must be turned in by 8 p.m. If it's late and there's nobody there, it won't be counted.
If you're in line at 8 o'clock, I think they'll go
It
ahead and
still will
count
count.
you. But is there some reason why you're wearing red tonight, or was it just a
Yes.
coincidence?
No, so you and I are Republican and Democrat. So I'm red for Republican and you're blue for being the D.
Okay.
In the room.
We've got a lot of excitement for both sides of that aisle tonight.
We're excited. I'm really excited to be here tonight. So I'm Holly Richardson. I'm here with Greg Skordas. This is a special edition of Inside Sources.
Yeah, and there are a lot of exciting things happening around the state. We had a show earlier today, talked to some of the county clerks. We broke down a couple of the races, and we're hoping that as soon as the polls close at 8 o'clock, we can bring you some of the results.
That's right. So stick with us. We have a fun few hours planned, at least a couple of hours, fun couple of hours planned. So let's start with KSL News Radio's Britt Johnson, who's reporting live from Box Elder County. She's been keeping a close eye on the race for the 2nd Congressional District. Britt, with less than an hour until the polls close, how are things looking?
Well, Greg and Holly, things are looking good. It's actually not too hectic here. I think people who have voted or wanting to vote are already out here voting. But the voters who I did speak to actually really wanted to focus in and cast their votes as a response to how the current county commission handled the Stratos data center project. A lot of people saying they were unhappy that things weren't brought to people's attention until the decision had pretty much been decided. And there are currently 2 of them up for re-election. But for that congressional seat, I've been hearing mixed things here at the polls. Braxton Cummins, a guy that I talked to, says he likes that Blake Moore has experience.
I think Blake Moore, I was just looking at his voting history. I think I was in agreement with most of his points. And I think that just seeing his voting history, it made me lean towards voting for him. Like I said, I haven't seen Carrie Ann's voting history, so I think that definitely played a role in me and my vote for sure, seeing Blake's voting history.
But Todd, another guy from Box Elder County, he has the opposite take.
But when you've been in there long enough and you see a guy, what a guy's been doing and who he works around and what he does, I mean, 6 years is long enough. It's time for change.
All right.
So it'll be interesting, to see how this all shakes out.
That is interesting. I wanted to ask you if that's okay about the Box Elder County Commission race, because those 2 county commissioners I would have thought didn't have a significant race until the data center. And it sounds like you're hearing that a lot of people are really unhappy about that.
Yeah, people have just expressed, it felt really unfair. It seemed like the decision had been made before it had ever been brought to the public. And that's, not what they would hope that their representatives would do for them. And so people were saying, I went in there and wanted to make sure that my vote was known for county or for the commissioners. And what's interesting is Lee Perry, he's only up against one other person. Boyd Bingham, he's up against 2 others, but it'll be interesting to see, okay, do people feel strongly enough to vote these people out, or are they willing to trust them to see this thing through? I think that's one that everyone around here has their eyes on, and probably around the state as well.
Did you get the sense, Britt, that was more of an important race, or at least more of a race to bring people to the polls than the CD2 race between Blake Moore and Carrie Ann Lisenby?
I think it probably brought people out as more, or at least as much as the CD2. But then I was also talking to people, and there's a race that kind of caught me by surprise because it hasn't been on our radar, but it's the school board.
Oh, interesting.
And several people were expressing to me that they were feeling strongly that they wanted to get their vote out there for the school board because they feel like, they want more transparency with funds. And then if that data center comes into the area, there's going to be a ton of growth up here. The need for schools is going to go way up, and they want their school to do the best with those funds as possible if they need to accommodate for all those people. And people around here also want to be able to trust the school board that they're not going to just say, oh, we need a new school, or we need this, or we need that, here's a bond, because people say we can't afford that. So a lot of people are passionate about the school board right now.
That's really interesting, because usually those races are down ballot and people don't pay as much attention. So super interesting. Thanks for that, Britt. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, let's check in on how...
thanks, Greg and Holly.
You bet. We'll check with you later. Let's check in on how things are going in Salt Lake County now with KSL NewsRadio. McKenna Rodriguez, who's joining us from the Salt Lake County Government Center on 21st South. McKenna, how are the lines there?
I would say, Greg, they've definitely picked up in the last couple hours. I've been here since 3, it was a little bit slower then, but definitely a little bit longer now, I think, as people have gotten off of work and everything. The line is like totally down the hallway, and the line to drop off ballots is, I'd say, like 10, 15 cars in line right now.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So they have they have 49 minutes left until the 8 p.m. deadline. But if they're in line, either in the building or in the car drop off, they can still drop off those ballots, right, McKenna?
Correct, yeah. I actually even saw some election workers going into the line and like asking if people are registered to vote already and like getting that stuff out of the way, I think, to maybe move through the line quicker, I assume.
So, what are you hearing about voters saying about especially Congressional District 1, the major Democratic primary race in Utah this cycle?
Holly, it's actually kind of surprising. I have been asking people about that, and some people, they either just didn't know, or they said it didn't play into like them coming to vote today, which I thought was interesting. I talked to one lady who did say that it made her excited to vote this year. Um, for the most part, though, most people didn't know too much about it.
Were there any elections that people were showing up for? Anybody that they mentioned in specific that they were coming, or people just coming to vote?
I did talk to one guy. He said Liban Muhammad was the reason he came out to vote today, and said he really aligns with his policies.
Are you hearing anything from maybe Republican voters or independent voters who are out voting today?
I haven't heard from any, mostly Democratic people I've been hearing from.
What about any of the other races? For example, the district attorney's race. Anybody mentioned anything about that? Because that's one where there is a Democratic primary tonight.
Yeah, I have also asked people about that too. I haven't heard too much about it.
Wow.
Okay, County Council, anything about that? Salt Lake County Council races? Wow.
No.
People are playing it close to the vest in Salt Lake County, which I think is good. I think that's great.
What are you hearing about turnout, maybe from your election workers or the county clerk? What are you hearing about turnout today?
I did talk to one election worker just for a minute because they're a little busy, but they said that it's been a great turnout so far, at least for people coming in to vote in the polls.
All right. Thanks, McKenna. That was McKenna Rodriguez with Salt Lake County. We will be back with you later on today. And it sounds like Salt Lake County, people are just showing up to vote and maybe just doing whatever they're going to do and not really wanting to talk too much about why they're there or who they're voting for. But there's so much going on in Salt Lake County, Republican, Democrat. There's a lot of races that are of interest.
Yeah, there are really some interesting races in Salt Lake County, and you have 46 minutes.
Yeah, but
if you haven't voted yet,
there's a line, and
there is a line.
Cars waiting to drop off in the boxes. That shouldn't take very long, though.
No, it doesn't take very long, but I think it's encouraging and a good sign that there's a line both inside the building to do it in person and outside the building to do it in the drop boxes. That's great. That's encouraging. You can still show up until 8 o'clock tonight. You can drop off your ballots in a drop box or to an election poll worker up until 8 o'clock. If you're in line and there is a line, you can still stay in line until all ballots are collected.
We did talk to Salt Lake County Clerk Lanny Chapman earlier today, who was excited about the number of voters we're turning out. It sounds like that number's only going to increase.
Sounds like it.
She thought we were getting close to 30%. We may be up to 40% by the time the night's over.
That would be great.
That'd be great. Well, once the polls close at 8 o'clock, then what happens? What's happening behind the scenes at these county clerks' offices around the state?
Your voice, your vote. Our special edition of Inside Sources continues after this break.
How will we ever?
It's 2:30. Your voice, your vote 2026.
Well, the clock is getting closer and closer to 8 p.m., and that's when the polls close here in Utah. We're 40 minutes away.
And once that happens, then what? What will county clerks be doing behind the scenes?
Well, join us for this special edition of Inside Sources tonight on election night. We're going to let you know the answer to that shortly after 8 o'clock, we hope.
So we spoke with several county clerks earlier today to find out more about turnout. I wanted to talk about the behind-the-scenes stuff. So joining us now is our own inside source, and that's Weber County Clerk Auditor Ricky Hatch. Thanks for joining us, Ricky.
Thank you, Holly. Good to talk to you.
Hey, I know that you're election night nerds like we are, although you're even deeper in the weeds than we are. So tell us what happens after tonight. What are county clerk's offices going to be doing?
Well, after the elections, after the polls close, the first thing we do is work our tails off to get unofficial results out as quickly as possible. Once we do that, then it's a matter of prepping for tomorrow, and we conduct reconciliations, we verify, triple check our numbers, and prep for tomorrow to catch those straggler ballots that come in the late afternoon and evening so that we can get those results updated as quickly as possible. And the last thing that we do is check on provisional voters who didn't quite, there was a question about their ballot being cast, and we need to research that. So we're working on that in several streams to get the results out as quickly as possible and make sure everything is accurate and buttoned up.
Ricky, you're my county clerk up there in Weber County, and you're the auditor up there as well. Tell our listeners how Weber County's doing numbers-wise. Are we getting a good turnout?
Yes, as of this afternoon, about 3 o'clock or so, we're at 32%, 31.6% by mail, and about 0.5% of in-person voting. So I think that we'll probably hit the high 30s. We might get as high as 38, 39% countywide. I'm hearing pretty similar numbers across the state. There are a few hot counties where it's already up over 45, almost 50%, and then some where it's a little bit lower.
So, Ricky, you mentioned that you're going to be super busy at 8:01. Tell me when we can expect results coming out of Weber County, the first drop.
The first drop and only drop for us tonight is going to be about 8:15, and those will show up at electionresults.utah.gov. Once we do that, because my staff has been here since about 5 a.m., we close up shop. We do our final reconciliations. We bring in all the ballots from the drop boxes, and then they go home because we're going to be back at it tomorrow morning. And I don't want them to process anything out of exhaustion where they might cut a corner or miss a detail or something like that. So we'll head home later tonight, maybe 10, 11, something like that, and be back at it early.
So, Ricky, what will those 8:15 ballots, what will they reflect?
We're guessing that's going to reflect about 90% of total votes cast. We won't know for sure until we open up the Dropbox numbers tomorrow morning, and then we'll have a better feel. But generally, it's in a low turnout election like this, it's 85 to 95% of the ballots are reported on election night.
Where are most of the voters going in Weber County? Where's the election place?
We have 2 vote centers in Weber County. One is up in the Ogden Valley in the Huntsville area. The other one is here at the Weber Center in downtown Ogden, and that's where the bulk of voters are coming. We've had about 450 voters come through our doors today in Ogden, and probably about 150 up in the Ogden Valley.
So can you talk us through ballot counting security? What measures do you take, and how do people feel comfortable about their ballot being secure?
Oh, I'm so glad you have that. Do you have 2 hours that I can go over that with you?
I really don't, so you can do it in 5 minutes or less.
Oh, of course. First off, we follow the law, and Utah law is pretty good for chain of custody and establishing requirements for us to follow to help make sure that no improper ballots are introduced into the stream and no legitimate votes are removed from the stream. That's accomplished by strict chain of custody from the moment we take possession of it in our drop boxes. We pick ballots up directly from the post office, so they're not delivered by the mail to our office. We go and pick them up directly. It's always logged. We always have 2 people present anytime a ballot is touched or moved. We have logs and cameras at every drop box. We use GPS trackers to track those ballots as they're coming in from the drop boxes by our pickup teams. Even our pickup teams they don't even know who they're going with that morning. We assign them randomly to help prevent the risk or lower the risk of any kind of collusion or anything like that. Once they're in our office, everything is done under video surveillance. We have logs and reconciliation points throughout the life of that processing. And in Weber County, we mailed out 73,000 ballots. If we're off by one on that reconciliation, we stop the process and we go find out what's wrong. We use some technology in counting the ballots, but we always follow that up with audits by people to make sure that the machines are functioning properly, and everything is always open and available to poll watchers, citizens, candidates. They can come in and watch the entire process. And then lastly, we have a strong sense of ethics that we adhere to in the elections community to make sure that we are not doing anything that could benefit or hurt a particular party or candidate or voter based off of any aspect of their life, whether it be age, race, party affiliation, anything like that. We have a code of ethics that we strictly adhere to above and beyond the law, and we really care. We care about getting it right.
And you do get it right, Ricky. I'm very proud to be a resident of Weber County with you as our clerk. Can you tell our listeners, if you know at all, whether the race for the 2nd Congressional District, the Republicans that are battling it out up there, have caused a little extra buzz, a little extra attention to to voting this year?
Yeah, it's been very active. We see a lot of signs. We see a lot of posts on social media. And it does seem to be generating a little bit, especially with the redistricting and the changes around that. It certainly hasn't generated the additional interest that, say, a gubernatorial race would generate, or a presidential for sure. But there's a lot of activity in Weber County. We've got a pretty hotly contested open commission seat, and that's getting quite a bit of attention. Still not what we would get in a presidential year or if we had a gubernatorial primary, but definitely some interest.
So, Ricky, we only have about a minute left, or a couple minutes maybe. Can you tell us really briefly what kind of audits happen once Election Day is over?
I'm sorry, say that. What kind of what happens?
Audits. What kind of audits do you do?
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. I know I only have a minute. So we audit the signature verification process. We audit the scanning machines that actually scan the ballots and tabulate the results. We do those in open public meetings. We do them before any single ballot is processed, and we do them before we certify the results at the end. This includes a hash validation, which is looking at the digital fingerprint of the hardware, software, and firmware. And all of this, it also involves random checks done by regular citizens or auditors. We never audit our own work. And again, all of those, we don't even know what ballots we're supposed to audit until right before the meeting starts, so we can't prep or hide anything that way. So all of this is done publicly, and it's done throughout the process.
That's so interesting. Thanks so much for joining us, Ricky. That was Ricky Hatch, Weber County Clerk Auditor. You still have a good chunk of work ahead of you, so thanks for all your hard work.
And he's adamant about the integrity, about the security, about the fairness. I mean, he takes it very seriously. I mean, he even goes to great lengths to talk about what they're doing and how they're being watched. And there's cameras. And I mean, good for him. And I hope that people recognize that, how important and how our county clerks are taking this so seriously.
I think one of the things that's great about Ricky too is he just makes it explicitly open to any member of the public who wants to come in and see. They can come in and they can watch the process. They can ask for a tour. Maybe not in the next 10 minutes, but
right.
That you can go through and be walked through that process.
So he makes it seem like at around 8:15, he's going to make his one and only announcement of what
for today
they show, which would be about 90% of the votes in. It should be very interesting.
Yeah, super interesting. And I'll reiterate that website once again. That is electionresults.utah.gov. All right. Well, when we come back, Primary races can sometimes be a little boring, we know that, but there have been some fireworks and some exciting things this cycle. But why?
Your voice, your vote. Our special edition of Inside Sources continues.
ABC News, I'm Dave Penn.
Richardson, and I'm joined in studio by my co-host Greg Skordas. We're here because we're nerds and we think this is so fun.
And we were here this morning, and we'll be here tomorrow morning.
And we will.
But
yes.
we're doing one in between today.
Look, this has been a really interesting election cycle. They probably all are, but this one has been particularly interesting, I think partially because of the redistricting. We've got the Democratic primary in the 1st Congressional District.
Right. And, of course, the 2nd and 3rd Congressional Districts both have Republican primaries. There's no primary in the 4th Congressional District. The Republican and Democrat are both bound for the general election.
So I wanted to go more in depth on how this cycle maybe has been a little different, but also some other races that are interesting. And we're joined by KSL.com reporter, political reporter, Bridger Biel-Svetko. You're here live with us. Thanks for joining us, Bridger.
Yeah, happy to be here. Happy
so
election night.
I know, happy election night. It's like I said earlier today, it's like Christmas Eve for political nerds. So it's like so fun. What are you going to unwrap that might be a surprise? Okay, look, I want to ask you, maybe not about the congressional races first. What are some of the other races that have caught your interest this cycle?
Yeah, there are several interesting state legislative races that are interesting. I think first of all is President Stuart Adams. He's been Senate president for almost a decade now. He spent a lot of time in that office. This is the first time in more than 10 years, maybe even going back further than that he's actually faced a primary challenger, and he has 2 this year. And so I think that's interesting in and of itself. We've seen some pushback from the right as well as from the left on him over his time in office. Obviously, over the last couple of months, the data center in Box Elder County, which he played a role in approving through his role on MIDA, has become a big issue. And so that'll be interesting to watch as he tries to keep his seat.
Let me just ask you a quick follow-up, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Do you think that having 2 challengers to President Adams is actually beneficial to him?
I do think it is. I think with any incumbent, the more challengers you have, it's harder to build a coalition, right? And it potentially lowers the bar to win. You know, maybe you could win with 40% instead of needing to get 50 plus 1. So I do think it helps President Adams that he has 2 challengers.
Okay.
It's frightening, Holly, how you read my mind.
Sorry.
You steal my questions. Exactly what I was going to ask. Okay. Any other legislative races that you're looking at?
Yeah, let's stay in the state Senate again.
Right.
Dan McKay is another fairly well-known senator. He chairs, I think, the Revenue and Taxation Committee there, so he's pretty powerful, and he's facing an interesting challenger in Representative Doug Fiafia, who was just elected to the House of Representatives 2 years ago. It's kind of rare to see someone move up and challenge an incumbent like that. I understand this has been a pretty closely fought race. I don't know how it's going to go, but that one will be one to watch tonight.
It was interesting that Fiafia gave up a seat after just 1 term. He must have had
potentially, right?
Yeah, I mean, after 1 term in the House.
Yeah.
Because he's given that up no matter what. But he must have had some pressure from within to do something like that, to challenge an incumbent.
Yeah, and I think he's seen as a rising star. I think he sponsored some big bills in his first year. He took on some AI regulation bills this past year. They didn't end up going anywhere, but that's been a big issue for him, and he's, I think, been aligned with the governor on that. So I think he's been a rising star in that spot, and if he's able to move up, I think he could obviously do a good job in the Senate. It is risky, like you said, to put your seat on the line, because if he loses, he will be out of the House.
Right.
Are there any other legislative races that you're watching right now tonight?
The other big one I would say is the Trevor Lee race. He's up in Layton, just like President Adams. He's in the House of Representatives. He faces a challenger from Davis County Commissioner and Bob Stevenson. Bob Stevenson actually beat him at convention a couple months ago, and so he looks like he could be vulnerable up there.
That's really interesting, because usually the convention delegates tend to swing a little further to the edges, and so that's interesting that Bob was able to win convention.
Yeah.
I wonder, are there any other races, like maybe not state legislative, but I know Greg is interested in the district attorney's race in Salt Lake County, but there's also county commission races. There's some interesting ones down where I live in Utah County. Anything else that you're watching?
Yeah, I'm going to be watching that Utah County clerk's race. I'm sure you are as well. Aaron Davidson has been in there for 4 years, I think, has a challenger on the Republican side. I think there have been some issues in his time in office. He obviously has a pretty loyal fan base from some on the right, but there have been some concerns with how he's led that office. So I'm curious to see if his opponent can get any traction tonight.
Okay, let's talk about the big ones, the congressional races, and let's start with the 1st congressional district. What do we think is going on there? Because again, I think this one's a little like Stuart Adams in that you have Stuart Adams, running against 2 people who may take away some of his thunder. You've got Ben McAdams, who's got 3 challengers who are not Ben McAdams. You know what I mean? And I'm wondering if that could play a part in him doing better because of that.
Yeah, I was actually going to say that exact same thing. I think Ben McAdams was in Congress for 2 years, from 2019 to 2021. So he came into the race with the name recognition. A lot of people knew him already. I think it's safe to say that he's probably the more moderate candidate in that race and faces 3 challengers from Nate Bluin, Liban Mohammed, and Michael Farrell, who I think are all running to his left in the more progressive lane. So I think if there had been one candidate in that race against him, I think it would be interesting to see where that would turn out. But I do think it's a disadvantage to all 3 others that I think they're all trying to share the same lane a little bit, and that's difficult.
It's interesting that, and I guess Bluin has sort of run his own polls, or maybe others have, but he's continued to poll pretty strongly, notwithstanding the controversy that he had immediately in the weeks before the Democratic State Convention. Yeah,
he has, and he put out that poll result himself, calling on those other 2 to drop out of the race. They obviously didn't take him up on that, but he responded to some posts that resurfaced online in the aftermath. I think he owned up to it and apologized, and I think while it's been a factor in the race, obviously he still has a lot of support, and so I think it could depend on how much of his support gets pulled off by those other 2, how close that race is in the end.
So we only have a couple minutes left, but what about the 2nd congressional district race? What about that one?
That one got a little hot at the end with some accusations.
That one has it, and I'll lump that one in with the 3rd as well and say both of those, you've got incumbents in Blake Moore and Celeste Malloy. They've both been endorsed by President Donald Trump, which we know goes a long way in a Republican primary here in Utah. In that 2nd district, Carrie Ann Lisenby, who's running against Moore, accused him of sending out some mailers improperly. Blake Moore has said that he used this taxpayer funds and sent them in small batches so that they were allowed. That was kind of a last-minute flare-up. But both those races, I think, are interesting, where you've got pretty established politicians in D.C. That are kind of running in that incumbent lane, and then 2 people saying, hey, maybe they're not conservative enough, trying to take them out.
What about Phil Lyman?
He's been quiet.
He hasn't. I haven't seen a whole lot of movement, although I don't live down in Washington County or anything like that. So Phil Lyman lost to Celeste Malloy at the convention, which I found a little surprising, kind of like Trevor Lee coming in second. Tell us briefly what you see in that race.
Yeah, I think that race is interesting. Phil Lyman, you probably remember him from 2 years ago, ran for governor, ran a really pretty impressive write-in campaign during that year. He ran for state party chair last year and lost with the delegates, and then lost to Celeste Malloy. So I wonder if his appeal is fading a little bit. He's had a couple of unsuccessful tries so far. Obviously, I think he still has a lot of strong support, but it is hard to overcome the incumbency advantage and the support from President Donald Trump.
And the Celeste Malloy ads, I counted it, mentions Donald Trump 6 times. I mean, she is not shy about saying my complete and total endorsement.
Now remember, that comes from an outside group, so that's not it's not Celeste's ad, it's somebody else's. So look, there are just 15 minutes until polls close. Races could be called within minutes after the polls close when we get that first dump.
Yeah, so coming up next on this special edition of Inside Sources, we'll tell you how polls are called. Stay with us for more of Your Voice, Your Vote. Hi, it's Greg. Wasn't working.
Your voice, your vote.
Well, the results that come down tonight from the primary elections aren't official results. That may take a week or two, but in many cases, the Associated Press will be calling some races tonight.
And it's so interesting because sometimes the AP will call a race within minutes after the polls close, and people can say, like, what the heck? There are still people waiting.
When I ran for Attorney General both times, they called it within seconds.
Of the
At 8
polls
o'clock,
closing.
8:01, scored as you're gone. Get out of here.
I can't imagine why
Yeah.
that would have been, Mr.
Right.
Democrat.
Yeah.
So look, we still have, there's 9 minutes left. You can still hurry. And if you're in line, stay in line. So I wanted to talk about how the Associated Press calls the winners because it's sometimes a process that can be confusing. And first, I want to just clarify. So the AP will call the congressional races tonight, and this is how. One of the things that I looked at, and in fact, I talked to an Associated Press reporter today to also get some background. But one of the things that the AP says on their website, they have a whole thing that says, look, we need to tell you how we do this. Because it's not guesswork. We're not guessing. We're not picking winners and losers. We're waiting until we have a variety of data that comes in, and then we use that to make our call.
But they'll be making a call before. It seems like some of the clerks have announced much of anything. Maybe not. I mean, maybe they'll wait till at least a couple results start coming in.
Well, they can't call before the clerks drop anything. And
Right.
So for election results, we're watching that as well. It's electionresults.utah, UTAH, and then .gov. So that's a website that will automatically refresh. So it's tempting to sit there and push refresh. But I think it refreshes every 60 seconds.
I've often watched, there are certain districts throughout the state that really closely mirror what the total of votes going to be. So they can look at, say, this
That's right.
particular area in Murray always gets it right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just making that up. But then they can look at that and say, okay, this is our bellwether. This is what we think is going to be the way that it's going to go.
So I'll just use Weber County, for example, because we just had Ricky Hatch on, and he told us that by the time they do their first and only vote dump, we call it a dump, right? But it's just really the total numbers for today that they're releasing. He thinks that that'll be 90 to 95% of the total votes that will be cast in this election.
And that he's going to release at 8:15.
Yeah, about right?
And then
so,
go home.
So what that tells me is if somebody is in a race and it is not close, say it's 70-30, there's no way that the person with 30% is going to be able to make up that difference.
Yeah.
If it's 46% to 45%, then it's going to be too close to call, right? But if 90% of the ballots are counted tonight, then we're going to know election results in some of the races that are not as close. So back to the Associated Press, it's the same thing, and this is one of the things that they say on there. AP does not make projections. We do not name likely winners. If our race callers cannot definitively say a candidate has won, we do not engage in speculation, right? So they want people to know that. And one of the ways that they do it is they look at, has there been any polling? Has there, are we talking about, so if you think, for example, when we get to the general, we have heavily Republican districts in Congress, they're going to call that race as soon as the polls close because I'm sorry, but Democratic challengers in CD3 or CD4,
right?
You're just not going to win,
right? But so the AP is going to call 3 races tonight, probably no more than that.
No,
they're
more.
not going to.
I don't think they're going to get down in any of the state level races, although they have in a couple of other states. But Utah, I mean, I think they pay less attention. We don't have a governor's race, as mentioned before. Some states do have that, and so those can be more interesting. But I think they will call the 3 congressional races if they feel like there is enough data, they have enough votes in, and there's a big enough spread between the candidates, they'll go ahead and call it.
And the first district, I think, will be the last one to be called.
Because
if I had
there's
to
4.
Guess, because there are 4 people. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So we spoke earlier today with Lanny Chapman, the Salt Lake County clerk, with results on the timeline for Salt Lake County because it's the biggest.
As soon after 8 as we can, we will release results. Those results will include all of the by-mail ballots that we have processed, probably through yesterday, through Monday that we received. We're able to process all the way through scanning. Later on tonight, we will also release in-person voting, and that's early voting and election day votes, excluding, of course, provisional votes. In the state of Utah, we allow people to do same-day registration, meaning it just takes my team a little bit of time to ensure that you were in fact eligible to participate before we count your vote. So that will take a little bit of time, but that's a very small amount of the in-person voting. And then again, on Thursday, we will update numbers again, and Friday if we need to.
Yeah, so that's Utah's biggest county by population.
Right.
Of course, Utah County, Davis, and Weber. The next biggest counties, I think Washington County is big too. So those would be a little bit slower to add up the numbers because of
potentially, right? So they have to check the ballots that need to be cured, which is what they call it, to verify signatures, match, etc.
And there's still a line at Salt Lake County. I mean,
Well,
it
at least
seemed
there
like there
was.
was 45 minutes ago.
Yeah, that's
that
right.
line has to be, if you're in line at 8 o'clock, and
You can still vote.
You may vote at 8:15, 8:30.
But you cannot go get in line at 8:15.
Right,
You have to already be in line at 8 o'clock.
Right.
So one of the things, too, for the Associated Press is people want to know, like, does the Associated Press use exit polling? Well, they used to, but they don't do it anymore. So exit polling means you stand there and you ask people as they leave, who did you vote for? Right? And then you try to get a good handle on how people voted. Well, not everybody tells the truth anyway, but they don't use that method anymore. And if it's too close a call, they're just not going to call it.
Yeah, because it's better to do that than get it wrong.
Sure,
that's
absolutely.
the last thing they want to do.
Right, absolutely. And here's one thing that's interesting. What about if a candidate concedes, even if the race hasn't been called? Well, a concession or lack of concession has zero bearing on the actual result of the election.
Right, you can
Zero.
concede and still win.
You can concede and still win. You can refuse to concede and still lose.
Yeah, right.
Right. So just interesting information. Again, polls close in 3 minutes. So not that we're counting, except we are counting.
But, it's obvious that the votes are being counted right now.
Oh, yeah,
they're being
absolutely.
tabulated. They're being fed into the system, and no one knows what the system is saying. But at 8 o'clock or whenever they poll whether those polls close, they'll kick out some numbers.
They will, and it takes a minute. But one of the things that they do, so Lanny explained it really well, is all of the early voting results and the mail-in voting that was received by up to yesterday. All of those votes will probably be counted in the very first drop.
Well, mail-in voting can come in today.
So only if it was received before 8 p.m., right?
Right.
Before close of business.
Yes.
But yes, so what I'm saying is they're going to have those early votes. The only things not really counted today will be the in-person voting for today. But, I mean, that could be a significant chunk. Up in Weber County, it's not significant. He said he thought the vast majority of the total were people who have already voted. They either did it in person, by mail, or in a drop box. But, like, less than 1% were voting in person today.
But it sounds like there's a line in Salt Lake.
Yeah.
Who knows what? That clerk we had earlier from Juab County talked about how very engaged that county is in voting, and she thought the numbers there would be pretty high.
She thought, I think when we talked to her this morning, Tennille is her first name. When we talked to her this morning, she said they were already at 40%.
Right.
And that their races, they were really excited about
Two county
sheriff
commission and the sheriff,
county
right.
commission. Yeah. And so we were talking to her about people who have been displaced by that big iron fire, and she said they can still vote. Of course, if you're not in line right now, you're probably not going to make it to the city offices because now you have a minute left.
Yeah, she said the people in Eureka that had their mail-in ballots sitting at the
They
house.
could have. They
doesn't matter. They can show up
That's
at the place and vote.
Yeah, but now we're pretty much out of time there. So super fun.
Get in line though. Get in line.
You have 1 minute, so if you're not running in right now.
Right. Yeah. So I can't wait. I can't wait. We're gonna have. We may have some results in as few as maybe 5 or 10 minutes. Well, we're just coming up on the close of the polls. We're expecting to get some initial results within the next hour.
Your voice, your vote. Our special inside sources will continue after this.
inside sources on election night on KSL News Radio.
So polls around the state just closed, and we have some very early results coming in some of the congressional districts. So this is by no means the totality of the vote, but in Congressional District 2, Blake Moore has 60%, just a hair under, 59.86%. Carrie Ann Lisenby with 40.14%. 1 out of 5 localities reporting. And in House District 3, Celeste Malloy has 70.71%, and Phil Lyman has 29.29%. Again, really early results, but it has begun.
Yeah, and those are some significant numbers for both of those incumbents. I think, especially Celeste Malloy, that's a good start for her. She's got to be very happy with that. And I think Blake Moore's probably satisfied, even though it's a small sampling, that those numbers are coming in. Do we have anything on CD1 at all?
Not yet. Nope, nothing on CD1 yet. All right, so we are continuing to watch these primaries, of course, the 3 congressional districts, state, local races, of course.
Yeah, and you can watch the results yourself. You just go to electionresults.utah.gov, and you can see some of the same results that we're watching today.
That's right. So let's begin this hour with KSL News Radio's McKenna Rodriguez. She joins us again from the Salt Lake County Government Center. McKenna, the polls just closed. Are people still in line? What are you seeing right now?
Yeah, the ballot drop box line, I haven't seen any cars in that in the last few minutes. I was just in the building at about 7:55. The line's still long, still a couple people trickling in, but moving a little bit slower, I would say, the line.
Yeah. How long is it? Is it coming out the door, or are they on the first floor there, that Government Center on 21st South and State?
Yeah, they're on the first floor. The line goes about to the other end of the building.
So it's pretty long.
It's pretty long. I'd say maybe like 40, 45 people still in line.
Okay, so people who are still in line need to stay in line because their votes will still count. Okay, so you talked with somebody earlier. Can you tell us what the feeling was about why they wanted to come out and vote?
Yeah, of course. I talked to another voter, Claudia O'Grady. She's from Salt Lake City. She was telling me that she thinks this is a really important primary election and an important moment in our social and economic political history, and that this is a change that she does want to see in the government.
Just knowing that I have some representation, I feel a little bit more heard, and I think that's really important. I think it gives me that's. I don't mind saying I was a registered Republican because I needed to have my vote matter somehow. Well, now I switched back because I now feel like my vote does matter in the Democratic primary and elections as well.
Yeah, I also talked to, she actually was telling me a little bit about the candidates that she had her eye on this election, Nate Bluen, Ben McAdams. She said those were the 2 she thought were most capable of making some real change in Washington.
Sounds like you got a lot of police presence over there.
Yeah.
I know. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
I'm right off a main road.
Okay. No, you're good, McKenna.
All right. Thanks for joining us. Look, we have some other early results. This is in Congressional District 1, so we were rating on some of those. Ben McAdams is in the lead by a lot. He has 60% of the vote. 60%.
Ouch.
Next closest is Nate Bluen at 24%, Liban at 12%, Michael Farrell at 3.8%. So
that's unexpected.
That he's so far ahead. Yeah. So again, we have some results coming in. There's the interesting race that we were talking about with Representative Fiafia and State Senator Dan McKay. We're seeing early results there that Doug Fiafia has 66% of the vote and Dan McKay has 34%.
Wow. Well, early numbers. Let's see where they are in the next few minutes. But those are significant numbers for some of those races, and maybe it's a little bit of a surprise. I didn't expect Ben McAdams to get over 50%.
I know.
I expected him to win.
We'll see if that holds.
Yeah.
Okay, so we also are going to go now to KSL News Radio's Britt Johnson, who's live in Box Elder County. We've talked to her earlier. But Britt, what are you seeing up there right now that polls are closed?
Things are pretty quiet, Greg and Holly. I mean, they're putting signs away. Everyone's finished up. There's no line. So we might be hearing from this neck of the woods sooner rather than later, which is nice. And, today as I've been here and talked to voters, it all comes back to that Stratos data center project up here and the debate on that. 2 of the 3 commissioners who approved it are up for reelection. And most people that I've talked to said they came to vote on that first and foremost. I met Todd. He's from Box Elder County, and he came with his whole family to vote on it.
Just for the fact that what went down out there, and they seemed to be laughing us off, and we were never, the people were never involved in that. We were never involved in any discussions at all. It's like, here it is, we're doing a data center. And then when they had that press conference that I saw, they just kind of laughed it off when the people were, they were being rude, but the people were speaking up about it. And they just laughed it off and voted for it anyway.
But the congressional district one is also important to the people. But I am getting a little bit more mixed messaging between who wants who and what, and the race between Carrie Ann Lisenby and Blake Moore. There we go. I talked to Braxton Cummins, who wants Blake Moore back in.
Someone that's going to stand up for freedom and for the beliefs of our country, and someone that's not afraid to speak up.
But others are worried about the redistricting that happened that he was a part of.
That he was responsible, one of the people directly responsible for taking one of our delegates away, which we're probably going to lose one of our 4 delegates in the fall to the Salt Lake district. It was made.
Britt, did you feel like the county clerks or any of the county officials up there were happy with the results, at least the number of people that were voting up there in Box Elder County? Do you think that they had a good turnout?
Yeah, I talked to one polling volunteer, and she said, it's kind of been small and slow trickles throughout the day, but in her experience, that's a little bit typical for a primary, and she anticipates that in a general election in November, we will see a lot busier polling up here. And she also feels like some of the fire that came out right around the data center drama about a month ago. She said she feels like it has fizzled a little bit, which maybe kept a few people from just racing in and getting to the polls right away.
Got it. Okay, that's
right,
KSL News Radio's Britt Johnson live in Box Elder County. Thanks again, Britt.
I've got a couple more results if we've got time.
We have time.
So we're looking at, again, early results. These are coming from Utah County. Corey Astle, who is the challenger to Aaron Davidson, is ahead. He has 55.93% of the vote. Aaron Davidson has 44%. Right now, we're looking at Republican for County Commission Seat A. Michelle Kafusi has almost 56%. Her challenger, 44%. In Commission Seat B, David Spencer has 41.93%, and his 2 challengers have less than that. In the race for Senate District 21, Brady Brammer right now in early voting is ahead, 55.57%, and Kelly Smith at 44.43%.
Those are all fairly close. The 55-45 split on a lot of those seem
10
to be
percentage
close.
points.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
that's fair, but we're still seeing in this county, Celeste Malloy and Phil Lyman, the same split, 70-30 split, really.
Yeah, and that's a big number for Celeste. She's got to be happy with that because, she's had, unfortunately, nail biters. And her last election wasn't called for days after.
Yeah, it felt like it took a really long time. So she's up 41 points in Utah County. She's up 43 points in Uinta County, up 40 points in Iron County, and 32 points in Duchesne County. So the night is looking pretty good for Celeste Malloy right now.
And perhaps for Blake Moore as well.
Yeah, so we're going to have many more results still to come. Our special election night edition of Inside Sources continues in just a few minutes.
One kind of Your vote on KSL News Radio.
All right, Holly, it's 20 after. Give us the updated numbers, especially with the congressional races.
So congressional races, we still have in CD1, we still have Ben McAdams at 60%. It's 60.21. We have Nate Bluen at 24%, Liban Mohammed at 12%, and Michael Farrell at basically 3.8%. So in CD2, we have right now Blake Moore is still ahead. He's running. Let me see. Let me get to there right now.
Blake was about 60-40 when you.
It was, yeah. So let's see. We have Blake Moore is 59.86, Carrie Ann Lisenby 40.14, and then Celeste Malloy in House District 3 70.34% to Phil Lyman 29.66%.
So those numbers have not changed.
Those haven't changed yet.
There have been votes coming in, but those are very similar to what you said earlier.
Yeah, and what's interesting with the Celeste Malloy race is she's very close in all the different counties that she covers, right, that district covers. So
I don't know if you have a chance to look at Box Elder County.
Yeah.
Yet.
I looked at Box Elder County. They don't have anything reported yet on the state website. So that's electionresults.utah.gov. They don't have anybody reporting yet. Okay, so we have Cache County. They're partially reporting. They say voter turnout was about 30%. And they have Blake Moore 60%, Carrie Ann 40%. And then the other race that they're reporting is county attorney up there. So Brett Chambers has 58.14, Dane Murray 41.86. Okay, so that's Cache County.
Yeah, would you just go to Washington County? I
You
don't know
bet.
if they've got anything yet. It looks like maybe not.
So I'm on the state website. Let's
There we
see.
go.
Washington County, Kane County, partially. Let's see. They have not reported yet.
Okay.
Yeah, they have not reported
Just
yet.
curious. Okay.
Oh, no, that's not true. Actually, they do have a few things. They do have a couple of county commission races. So right now, again, early voting results is 57.11% for Gil Almquist, and Bill Hoster is behind with 43%. And in Commission Seat B, Troy Belliston at 51.28, and the incumbent is Victor Iverson. He's got 48.72%.
All right. Okay, if I can continue here, I would say let's go to Utah County and see what's happening with the county commission.
What is going on in Utah County? That's always a good question, by the way.
Yeah, that's your county.
It is my county. Okay, so we the multi-county race, Dan McKay and Doug Fiafia crosses into Utah County. Those numbers haven't changed. We still have Dan McKay at 34%, Fiafia at 65, almost 66. Brady Brammer 55.57, Kelly Smith at 44. And then when we get down to county commission, so we have Michelle Kafusi at 55.94%, and she has one challenger, Brent Bowles, 44.06%.
Okay. I know I'm all over the place here. Let's go north into Davis County and see what Trevor Lee's looking like.
Okay.
With
Bob
Stevenson.
Okay, great. So let's see. Davis County has not yet reported. Weber County has not yet reported on the state website. So I can't go there yet.
Okay. Weber County, he said 8:15. Come on.
8:24. You're going to have to give Ricky Hatch a hard time because there's nothing yet on the state website. So let's see. We wanted to go to Juab County too, but they have not reported yet. But remember, they said when they reported, she thought it would be basically all of the votes would be reported at that point.
Yeah, and a lot of counties are waiting to do that and maybe just do one big dump and tell us everything they've got. I wonder if the Associated Press has dared to call any of our races.
They have not called any of our races yet, at least according to their website and their Twitter feed. So keeping an eye on both of those. They haven't called the races yet. But, you know, super interesting about this turnout, the voter turnout, state election results. We've got a lot of the smaller counties up north. Okay, Box Elder County, it's only partially being reported at this point, so we have the Blake Moore, Carrie Ann Lisenby. Okay. So you wanted to know about Box Elder County commissioners.
Right.
Right now, both incumbents are losing.
Yeah.
Both incumbents are losing.
And I would have guessed they would have been sure thing winners 2 months ago.
Yeah. So Boyd Bingham is at 48.78%. His challenger, Vance Smith, 51.2%. Lee Perry at 47.16, and Nathan Tueller at 52.84.
So very close races. Very
close races.
Yeah.
And then there's Box Elder County Sheriff, and I don't know if you know anybody. I don't know if you know the sheriff candidates at all, but Mike Allred is winning with almost 62%. So we do have breaking news.
The Associated Press has called the 1st Congressional District and has listed Ben McAdams as coming out of the Democratic primary there. And that is a bit of a surprise. I would have expected that to be the last one to get called. But if he's at 60% and the other three are dividing up the other 40%, that's a big victory for Ben McAdams.
Yeah, they called it within the last minute and a half, but yes, they there's no way that they can catch him.
Yeah, right. I would have thought he would have won by a plurality. I figured he'd win with 35 to 40%, and the others would split the rest. But
he's going
60.
into the general election with a really solid backing of Salt Lake County, at least the voters in CD1.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's see. So Box Elder County Sheriff, I said Mike Allred. There are multiple school district races, as we talked with Britt about up there. Where else do you want to look?
I want to go to Weber and Davis. Just
okay.
Check one more time and see if either of them are posted
Weber
yet.
Davis. Let's see what we have there. And again, I'm on electionresults.utah.gov. Still no Weber. And we do have Davis County a little bit. Okay, so Davis County, Blakemore, Carrie Ann Elizabeth, same percentages. Okay, so for Senate District 6, Tammy Tran, way ahead. 71.75% of the vote, and her challenger, Robert Wanless. So Tammy has been a mayor, so she is way ahead. The Stuart Adams race.
He's got to be pretty far ahead. The same sort of like
Stephanie Hollis is the winning right now in the early results, and she has 43.46% of the vote. Braden Hess has 21.77%, which tells me 65% of the voters are saying we want somebody besides Stuart Adams.
What's Stuart's numbers?
34.7%.
He's got to be a little bit worried about that.
He does have to be a little worried about that. Yeah, I agree with that. So Trevor Lee, only 33%. Bob Stevenson's almost 67% right now.
Does that race
early votes
go into Weber County also, or is it just
this is a
Davis
single
County?
Okay,
that's
this is a single county.
Race, yeah.
So again, these are early results, and I'll say County Commissioner seat A. We talked about this earlier, but Kendall Ann Harris, who has been the mayor of Bountiful, she's not anymore. She is winning that race fairly handily. She's got 43.72% of the vote, but her two challengers have split the remainder of the vote, and they're very close. 27% and 29%.
I'm surprised at the Stuart Adams race. That's when it's caught me off guard.
I'm not that surprised. Personally, I thought he was the most vulnerable he's ever been. So again, these are early results. We'll see what happens as all of the results come in. County Commissioner seat B up there, Susan Lee is just a hair under 50%. That's Trevor Lee's mom. Lorraine Kamalu, who's the incumbent, has just a hair over 50%. So that race is very close right now.
Over 50 and under 50, yeah.
Yep.
Way too close to call that one.
Yeah, way too close. Brian McKenzie, who's the county clerk, we talked to him earlier today, actually, and he has about 64% of the vote in that race up there.
Can you just look up the county sheriff in Davis County?
Yeah, sure. So Aaron Perry, 50.21%, and John Atkin, 49.79%.
That one was
very close.
Very contested. Oh, Wasatch County.
Okay.
Is there any way you could go there?
Let's look at Wasatch County. So Wasatch County, we have nothing reported yet in Wasatch County.
Come on, Wasatch.
Okay, Weber County does have results now.
Okay, these will be big.
Okay, so in State Senate District 5, Christina Hernandez, this is a Democratic primary, by the way. So 60.56% for CJ Christina Hernandez, 39.44% for Dakota Worth. Blakemore and Carrie Ann. Blakemore has 58.14, Carrie Ann 41.86.
That was right close to 60-40 in every county.
So, yeah, so these are just the counties, but right. I will say in the Celeste Malloy Phil Lyman race, Celeste Malloy has 78% and Phil Lyman has under 22%.
In Weber?
Yeah, in Weber County. So we are, these are fun results to go through. Again, they're early results, but we will continue talking about this when we come back after our next break.
My name is Tom.
My name is Cindy. Traffic and weather together brought to you by
Well, I was going to say something, but I'll refrain. People got upset because of his running a bill to change the state flag, but I can't imagine that would have played in too much to this race.
Yeah.
So I don't know for sure, but that's a really interesting race. So there's a race in House District 34. I think most of the results are in right now. That one is to replace Representative Carol Spackman Moss.
Oh,
and
that's
this
a big
one, they don't have a general election challenger. So the person who wins tonight is the person. And right now, that is Julie Jackson. She has 54.72% to Aaron Jemison, 45.28%.
Yeah, that's that's a big race too, because you're right. That doesn't even that's the election there.
Yeah. So Andrew Stoddard in District 40, he's the incumbent. He has 54%. Wendy Davis, 45.86%. Jordan Tusher, right now at 53%. And this race they almost have all the precincts in. Scott Stevenson at 46.91%. That's an interesting race too, right? County Council, and this is for Republicans. So they will go up in the general election against a Democrat, of course. Tracy Crockett at 52.13%. Chris Knoll at just under 48%.
Too close to call.
Sim Gill right now 56%. And Sean Robinson just under 44%.
Yeah, that one seems to be fairly safely in the pocket of Sim Gill for another, it's probably his 5th term.
So what other races should we talk about?
Okay, I keep hearkening to Wasatch County, but it looks like they don't have their results in yet. Let's go back. Let's follow up with. Go ahead.
You said hearken.
No, I can't.
It's a running joke. You got to know that. Okay, so Sanpete County, Juab County's not in yet. Tooele County, we have early results. They don't have a ton in, but let's see. We've got county council there, school board district races out in Tooele County, but we don't have a lot of voter turnout. They're putting it at 10% right now.
Let's see if the Stewart Adams numbers have been updated, or if that's just
okay. So remind me, that's Davis Weber.
Maybe it's Davis.
I think it's Davis.
Okay.
So let's look at Davis County. Davis County has Tammy Tran is way ahead. So Stewart Adams, I don't think the numbers have changed. He's at 34%. Stephanie Hollis at 43.46%. Okay, so those numbers haven't changed yet. Trevor Lee is losing handily, 33%, with Bob Stevenson at 66.73%.
Wow.
Yeah. Kendall Harris looks like she's going to win the race for County Commissioner Seat A. And then Commissioner Seat B, I think that race is too close to call. It's about just over 1 percentage point. Okay. Fun night.
Yeah, it's a very exciting night. I know I'm having you dance all over the place.
It's all good.
Can you go back to Utah County?
You bet.
I want to see how Michelle Kafusi's doing.
So when we looked at Utah County last, Michelle Kafusi was winning her race for county commission seat. We have, let's see, right here, she has 56% of the vote, basically, and her challenger is 44.
Yeah.
And there's still a lot of votes to come in. And then in commission seat B, it's David Spencer right now who's leading with 41.93% of the vote, but he has 2 challengers, and so they've split. 35% for Isaac Paxman, 22% for Carolina Heron.
So it's interesting that the Associated Press has not called the 2nd Congressional District yet, but it appears that in every county where there's votes in the 2nd Congressional District, Blake Moore is about 60-40 ahead of Carrie Ann Lisenby. That seems to be across the board, and those numbers haven't seemed to change at all.
They haven't. And you know what's interesting is I'm looking on the AP website. They don't have that even as a race that's interesting. They have 1 and 3. So interestingly enough, I guess that means they thought maybe the incumbent would win.
But that's the closest of the 3 races.
That is the closest of the 3 races, right, 60-40. Okay, so interesting races. Let's see, Davis County, Salt Lake County. Where should we go? Salt Lake County voter turnout. They're saying 16%, but we know that those numbers are higher.
Well, they're probably still counting in Salt Lake County. We'll get numbers, I bet, before 9 o'clock in Salt Lake County as those numbers continue to come in. There was some, I think you broke down the races. Oh, Ben McAdams looked like he is about to say something. He's got a lot of balloons, a lot of people, a lot of happy smiles.
His victory
Let's
speech,
see
if we can go to it.
All right, Utah Democrats. I think the last time, thank you, Utah Democrats. The last time I was elected to Congress, he fell asleep on the stage during my speech. Hopefully we'll keep him awake this time. Thank you, Utah Democrats. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Tonight this victory belongs to every volunteer who showed up on a hot June afternoon and knocked door after door. Tonight belongs to my incredible staff, to Kathy Warren, to Josh, to Ben, to Addison, to Gracie, to Robbie. Thank you so much for everything, the hard work, late nights. Tonight belongs to so many of you volunteers who were with us throughout this entire journey, who started in my house talking about policies and putting the screws to me to decide if I was worthy of your support, and for your selfless dedication for the people who are counting on us to win this race. Thank you. And tonight belongs to every Utahn who looked at this race and said, we need someone with the courage to stand up and to stand alone, and the courage to reach across differences to get it done. Most of all, thank you. Most of all, I want to thank my family. Julie, you have been my partner through every hard thing and every good thing. As Julie always reminds me, she says, you just need to do what you believe is right, and the worst that can happen is you'll win. To James, Kate, Robert, and Isaac, thank you for sharing me with this work again. Public service, thank you. Public service takes a lot from families. Robert is at volleyball practice tonight, and so we support his priority there. Kate is studying abroad, so she's not here tonight, but they are with us in spirit. And I know that this campaign has asked a lot from our family. I love you all, and I am grateful beyond words for your support. Thank you. Thank you. I want to thank Kathleen Reeby, who's here with us tonight. Senator Reeby, your friendship, your wise counsel, and your support over these last few months have been invaluable. Thank you for your public service. I also want to say something to Liban, to Nate, and to Michael. You ran hard. You ran with conviction. And this party and this state are better for it. The energy and the passion that your campaigns brought to this race is exactly what we need heading into November. So I'm inviting you, and I am asking your supporters to join us in this fight. Because the stakes right now could not be higher. And I know we all agree that it is important to send a Democrat to Congress who will fight and who will deliver. Because the people we need to be fighting are not each other. They are the politicians and powerful interests who have been running up the tab and handing the bill to everyone else. They are in the White House, they are in Congress, and they are counting on us to stay divided. And we will not give them that. I grew up in a home where our lights went out because we struggled with medical debt and struggled to pay the bills. And my mom raised 6 kids largely on her own, working harder than anyone I know. She taught me that kindness, that perseverance, that those things matter, and that you show up for people, especially when it's hard. And that still drives me today. We still have work ahead for us, Utah Democrats. So families in this district, they are working harder than ever, and they are falling behind on the rent. The Great Salt Lake is disappearing. Our democracy is under attack. People are counting on us to stand up against corruption, to stand up against the assault on our democracy, and to move forward solutions that will bring down the cost of housing, gas, groceries, and will make sure that health care is affordable for everyone. These are not abstract problems. These are the daily reality for people who are counting on us to act. And I know what it takes to move a vote, not just cast one, to pass a law, not just promise one. I fought for Obamacare. I fought to protect Obamacare. I worked to expand Medicaid and get thousands of people access to health care and treatment for addiction. I delivered the largest federal investment in public lands in a generation. I helped to secure LGBTQ protections in Utah when people said it could not be done. And when the defining vote of my term in Congress came, I stood my ground. I voted to impeach Donald Trump, knowing it would cost me my election. It did, and I would do it again. I would do it again because character matters. Courage matters. And right now, talk is cheap. Utahns deserve someone who has already shown the courage to stand up and to speak with conviction when the pressure is real. Courage is not only standing alone. It is also doing the hard work of building coalitions, of solving problems, and delivering results for the people who cannot afford more excuses. That is what this campaign has always been about, the people. The families working 2 and 3 jobs and still falling behind. The Utahns who love our public lands and want them protected for the next generation. The people who are tired of politicians picking fights and everyone else pays the price. To every Democrat, to every independent, every Republican who is tired of chaos and corruption, to every voter who believes that public service should still mean something, there is a place for you in this campaign. This district exists because Utahns, like all of you, fought for fair maps and fought for the right to make your voices heard. That fight is not over. The same politicians who tried to silence voters before are still trying to protect their own power. They know what this district represents. They know what's possible when Utahns have a fair shot. Tonight, we begin the next phase of this fight together. The campaign is not over. We are only getting started, and we have so much work ahead for us. So we are done, thank you. We are done picking up the tab for politicians who serve themselves. We're done paying the price for chaos, for corruption, for cruelty, and for cowardice. Tonight we celebrate. Tomorrow we get back to work. We are going to fight for Utah families. We are going to fight for immigrant families. We are going to fight for our democracy. We are going to fight for our public lands, and we are going to fight for our freedoms and the country that we know we can still become. And together, we are going to win. Thank you. Thank you.
Somebody take on a member of the legislature when you're already a member of the legislature. So I figured he had pretty strong backing, but it's like a 70-30 race. Not quite, but almost. I mean, that race is a much bigger spread than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
And then Senate President Stuart Adams, if the numbers hold, he will lose his seat.
And he has been working it hard. I mean, he's got more billboards than the competition combined. Yeah. And I thought the same thing that Bridger talked about earlier, that the other two would split the not Stuart Adams vote and that he would win by.
There was significant not Stuart Adams. I think as I added up the numbers, it was 65% saying not Stuart Adams. So right now the person in the lead is Stephanie Hollis, and she has under 50%, but over 40, right? It's over 40%. So it's interesting there, right? And it's interesting because that race, I think a lot of it had to do with the data center, and I think that is playing out with the Box Elder County commissioners too. Both incumbents there are still underwater. So again, these are the early results. We'll see how they hold as all of the results come in. But the data center controversy in Box Elder County, I think, could cost at least 3 incumbents their seats.
Exactly. It absolutely will, it looks like. And who knows how far down the line that's going to go. Well, we I wanted to talk about Ben McAdams because I was surprised at his numbers, and I'm wondering if it was part of it was the people that came in and asked for ballots, some 7,000 people. I mean, I know his numbers because I would have thought they would be Republicans who would vote anybody but him to make the Republican challenger stronger.
I think you're maybe overthinking this.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was more moderates who said, "Let's get in."
Yeah, and there, we did see some news stories during that race, just saying a Republican, in fact, who went in and requested a ballot in the Democratic primary, and she said, "I want somebody who's moderate in there, and so this is the race I have to vote in."
Well, let's get our expert here. We've got Brigham Tomko, Deseret News political reporter. Brigham, what do you make of this tonight? Any surprises from your perspective? Or is it coming down to the way you thought, pretty much?
So polls closed a mere 50 minutes ago, and the AP has called it, as I'm sure your listeners have heard, for Ben McAdams in the 1st District, Blake Moore in the 2nd District, and Celeste Malloy in the 3rd District. And I wouldn't say that this is a surprise because those 3 candidates outraised the rest of the field so much.
Right.
So in terms of money, this may have seemed like a foregone conclusion to some, but with the redistricting, reshuffling so many of these constituencies, and with some of these big, fiery political issues around the identity of the Democratic Party, around AI data centers, around our redrawn maps, people thought that this was an opening for some of the anti-incumbent sentiment in the state of Utah. But it turns out that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
At least not for them. It looks like it's going to be the case on a more local level. Or are there any big things, not congressional races really, but any big things that surprised you, or any races that surprised you tonight so far?
So I'm focusing on these congressional races. You're right. We could see huge upsets at the state legislative level, even with our state Senate President, Stuart Adams. And so we'll be watching those closely. But when it comes to these congressional races, we saw Phil Lyman create a statewide name recognition in 2024, losing to Governor Cox by less than 10 points and then running a historic write-in campaign. And he did best in places like Washington County, where he won by 20 percentage points against the governor. And that's the same location where Celeste Malloy really struggled against Colby Jenkins, who Utah Senator Mike Lee had endorsed that year. She lost by nearly 20 percentage points in Washington County. But this time around, we're seeing Celeste Malloy leading in that same southwestern corner of the state by 30 percentage points.
By a lot.
And
I'm wondering if
in Utah County by even. Maybe
Phil
even
Lyman
40.
buzz has sort of died down or something. I mean, he had some momentum, but maybe not so much anymore.
So I think that is one of the surprises and the conclusions that I'm tentatively taking away so far.
So it's interesting to me too, and I'm looking at county commission down in Washington County. It looks like the incumbents are losing down there as well. So I don't know as much about the politics down south, but I thought that was an interesting result. Yeah. Anything in Salt Lake County that surprised you?
So as I'm looking here at the 1st Congressional District results, I think that it tells a story about the 1st District that we have been wanting to know ever since this new map was established, which is, what kind of a district is this? Mm-hmm. What kind of Democratic candidate do 1st District primary voters want to send to Washington, D.C.?
Much more moderate than we may have thought.
Right. There was this national debate over the identity of the Democratic Party. We're seeing it play out in places like New York tonight, where you have even a Democratic socialist left wing of the party really vying for control against a maybe more moderate, pragmatic wing of the party. In Utah, I think the message is loud and clear that even though we have this opportunity for Democrats to have a competitive primary, they're sticking with a Ben McAdams type candidate, and candidates like Nate Bluen, Liban Mohammed, and Michael Farrell won't even come close.
Yeah, combined, they didn't come close.
Yeah, combined.
I mean, that was surprising to me.
It's 60 Ben McAdams, 40 everybody else.
Yeah, that was pretty wild.
So I'm looking at the Utah County race, especially for county clerk. There's some other really interesting ones, but right now it looks like the incumbent Aaron Davidson is losing. He's got 44% of the vote. His challenger 56%, basically. There's still a lot of votes to come in, however, but I mean, I think that's been something that is pretty interesting to me because I live down there in Utah County.
Yeah, I think where you're seeing some of those anti-incumbent surprises, it's not in favor of a more radical type challenger like we may have seen in the 3rd congressional district race with a candidate like a Phil Lyman, or in the 1st congressional district race with a candidate like Carrie Ann Lisenby, who framed themselves as someone that was more ideological, more aggressive, more of a fighter. You're actually seeing candidates like that at the state legislative level, like a Trevor Lee, struggling right now against a challenger who frames himself as more moderate, as more pragmatic. And so it could be interesting to see maybe opposite trends at the congressional level versus some of these state legislative seats.
Yeah, and before you got here, Brigham, and maybe right as you were coming in, Holly mentioned that the words data center may have cost 3 people their seats, 3 incumbents, including the 2 county commissioners, and perhaps Stuart Adams, our current Senate president, who's been in that role for some time.
Yeah, I did exclusive reporting on the campaigns of those county commissioners and on Stuart Adams, and in both cases, big money was coming in focused particularly on that topic of data centers. And it was interesting how in the case of Stuart Adams, you saw out-of-state groups that were actually targeting him for not being conservative enough, but they were still focusing on MIDA, still focusing on data centers.
Yeah. So I want to thank you for coming in, Brigham Tomko, Deseret News political reporter in studio today. Look, we're just about out of time for our special election night edition of Inside Sources. It's been fun, though.
It's been a blast.
We're going to continue to watch as results come in overnight. We're going to have the latest numbers. I mean, they'll be done for sure by midnight, and then there'll be more numbers tomorrow morning. You can catch the latest on Utah's Morning News with Andy and Amanda.
Yeah, and make sure you join us in the morning, Inside Sources. We'll be back at 9 o'clock for more in-depth analysis and recaps of tonight's results.
Thank you for joining us for your voice. See, I can't do it. Your voice, your vote. Have a great night.
Okay, I've got in front of me, Ethan, the last one, which is the Black Beach.
Primary election night here in Utah, and we're getting a better idea who's going to make it onto the November ballot.
And it's not as cut and dry as you might expect. We have team coverage on Decision 2026. Mike Anderson in Box Elder County, Daniel Woodruff in Salt Lake City.
All right, Andrew Adams in Davis County, where there's a close race there involving Utah's current Senate president. Let's look at those numbers right now. You can see Stephanie Hollis with a slight lead over incumbent Stuart Adams. News specialist Andrew Adams talking with both campaigns tonight.
Andrew, this would be a big upset.
A massive upset in Utah politics, and Stephanie Hollis, when we spoke to her within the last hour, was hesitant to claim victory. She said the results were promising, essentially, but just within the last little bit, we received a statement from Senate President Stuart Adams in which he congratulated Hollis, and we're going to show you that now, or a portion of that quote. "I congratulate my opponent on their victory and wish them every success as they continue the important work of serving the people of Utah." The Senate president also thanks his staff and supporters and says, quote, "Serving the people of Utah has been one of the greatest honors of my life." Now, we watched earlier this evening as what felt like quite a few people showed up to drop off their ballots at the Davis County Library in Kaysville. One voter told us the Box Elder County Data Center issue was what drove her to vote because she felt blindsided and that there was no open book. It's unclear how much that particular issue factored for every voter, but as the votes went through the eventual certification and counting process here at the Davis County Clerk's office, the numbers put Stephanie Hollis on top with a healthy lead. We asked her about her thoughts of being in this position coming into this race as a significant underdog to a powerful longtime legislator.
I knew it would be an uphill battle. I knew it would be hard. I actually have, been behind the scenes at the legislature for a while. I know who Stuart Adams is. I met with him before I officially decided to run and knew it would be a hard race. But I also felt like this was a moment that this is the way I could contribute, because this was the time that I have the bandwidth, the resources, the energy, and really it's the time when people have this push, this feeling of we're ready for change, we want something different. If all of those hadn't aligned, I don't know that we'd be standing here.
We'll have much more from her a little bit later on KSL.com. We also heard tonight from Braden Hess, the other challenger in the race. He said the results were obviously disappointing, but it sounds like he's committed to making a future push for a legislative position somehow. Back to you.
Andrew Adams live for us in Davis County tonight. Thank you.
All right, so in Box Elder County, Deputy Mike Allred currently leads in the race for sheriff against his current boss, Sheriff Kevin Potter. This specialist Mike Anderson speaking with Allred about his hopes here for the future of law enforcement there. Mike?
Yeah, Mike, we also have two county commissioners facing challengers. More on that in a minute. But yes, Deputy Allred, as you may recall, was injured in that deadly shooting in Tremonton last August. And Allred is watching the results come in with his family and close friends tonight at his home. He's currently ahead by just over 61% with the very early results there. He's still very cautiously and anxiously waiting to see the final numbers. Allred said he had hoped to run for office at some point in his career, but recently felt he had to do it now.
Some things happened after the event in Tremonton with the office, and I knew that I needed to do it right now. I couldn't wait for the sake of the county and our guys that go out there and put their lives on the line every single day.
And Sheriff Kevin Potter said he would not comment on the results of tonight's election either way. You may recall that back in January, police departments from Brigham City, Tremonton, and Perry all announced plans to leave Box Elder County Dispatch, moving to services with Weber County. Chief Chad Reyes and Brigham City also, who did that, also endorsed Allred for sheriff. Meanwhile, still a very close race in the county commission races. Vance Smith challenging incumbent Boyd Bingham, then Nathan Tueller against incumbent Lee Perry, and both of those challengers currently ahead, but also close. But those incumbents facing criticism, of course, again, for their votes for that Stratos data center to move it forward, both saying as well that they made the better of two very bad choices, that they couldn't stop the progress, but by voting for it to move forward, they could at least ensure some benefits for the county. We'll continue to watch those races and update you on those. Back to you.
Yeah, a number of implications on this one. All right, Mike Anderson live tonight. Mike, thank you.
Former Utah Congressman Ben McAdams is on his way to returning to Washington, D.C. McAdams won the Democratic primary tonight, according to the Associated Press. The latest numbers show him with 60% of the vote, defeating multiple other Democratic candidates. News specialist Daniel Woodruff is live in Salt Lake City, where McAdams and his supporters are celebrating, no doubt, tonight.
Yeah, Ashley, it really didn't take long tonight for that race to be called in favor of Ben McAdams. And when it was, his supporters here in Salt Lake City erupted in cheers. Now, McAdams is no stranger here in Utah. He's the former Salt Lake County mayor who previously served one term in the U.S. House of Representatives from 2019 to 2021 before losing his bid for another term. Now, with a newly redrawn congressional map in Utah and a new left-leaning first congressional district, McAdams is now heading to the November general election.
This is the first time in a long time that Utah voters have been able to express their voice, that they don't have a district that lines are rigged to guarantee an outcome. So, this race is going to be determined by whoever gets out there and connects with the voters and earns their trust. And, it's important that voters have the opportunity to choose their elected officials, not politicians choosing what voters they want.
Now, tonight, as he spoke to his supporters, Ben McAdams promised them that he would fight for democracy, push to help the shrinking Great Salt Lake, and also try to make life more affordable for Utahns. McAdams will now move to the general. Again, in November, he'll face a Republican and a Libertarian candidate in the final months of this race. Live in Salt Lake City, Daniel Woodruff, KSL 5 News.
All right, Daniel, thank you.
All right, now to the 2nd Congressional District here in northern Utah. Congressman Blake Moore is the projected winner, defeating State Representative Carrie Ann Lisenby. Moore is seeking a 4th term. He's going to face 4 challengers in the general election.
And incumbent Congresswoman Celeste Malloy is the projected winner in the 3rd Congressional District. She defeated former state lawmaker Phil Lyman. Malloy will also face 4 challengers in November.
All right, some other key races we're watching. Utah Senate District 18, current House Representative Doug Fiafia is trying to unseat incumbent Senator Dan McKay. The winner will face Democrat Dane Anderson in November.
Now, here are some other key races we are watching tonight. In Utah House District 16, incumbent Trevor Lee being challenged by Davis County Commissioner Bob Stevenson. The winner will go on to face Democrat Abigail Treasure in the general election.
House District 44, it is Representative Jordan Tusher against Scott Stevenson. The winner will face Democrat Jess Bircher in November.
Now, KSL is your place for politics. We'll be updating you on the primary races that are too close to call, then giving you all the information that you need to make an informed decision in November. And then on Tuesday, November 3rd, we'll be with you throughout the night as those results come in.
On Fire Watch, crews making some quick work of a new fire start just east of Dimple Dell Park in Sandy. Firefighters say the flames threatened homes at one point, but nothing damaged. The fire burned through 3 acres. The cause is under investigation. Let's head on over to Devin Mashuli right now. And Devin, we talked about earlier today. It was hot. There's a lot of smoke, and I'm pretty sure the sun was out there somewhere.
Yeah, the sun was out there somewhere, and you really could see it tonight when it was setting in St. George. Wildfire smoke from the southeastern Nevada fires moved overhead, and you could see just how beautiful the sunset was as the sun reflects off all the smoke particles in the air and kind of leads to those colors popping out. It has been smoky across northern Utah. I mean, really the entire state. Air quality has improved in Logan, Brigham City, down through Ogden and Layton into the Salt Lake Valley, seeing more yellow instead of orange like we saw earlier, and then kind of a mixed bag across Utah Valley, and still really along the Wasatch back, a lot of orange, so unhealthy for sensitive individuals. It's 82 degrees right now in Salt Lake, upper 70s in Logan, and mid 90s in St. George. We're tracking some thunderstorms and showers in the forecast tomorrow, strong winds Friday and Saturday, then a big drop in temperatures over the weekend that we'll talk more about in the full 7-day forecast.
All right, Devin, thank you. Well, a fire raging out of control in Beaver County could be hours away from becoming the largest wildfire in the state. The very latest on the Cottonwood fire coming up.
Also, hackers are now tricking AI into giving up your personal information. KSL investigator Matt Gephardt shows us how they're doing it and how you can protect yourself.
More bucking, more Bronx, and a discount for KSL Family Days. So grab your boots and visit KSLTV.com now for 40% off.